Hello, this is Scottish Independence Podcast episode number 179, recording live in the garage because the baby is sleeping and that's the reason for the echo. Anyway, on to the show. Tomorrow is April Fool's Day and I think at the moment we all need a bit of a laugh. So what I'd like to do is do a rerun of the April Fool's show that we did in 2013. Myself and some other regular contributors to the show took some of the more absurd arguments that you've heard throughout the years. You may have heard the stupid argument in some various quarters that coronavirus means the end for Scottish independence. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. It's a sunny day means the end for Scottish independence. It's a rainy day, that's the end for Scottish independence, and so on. But a few years back, when we made this April Fool's episode, their arguments were just as absurd. So myself and a few other regular contributors to the show all took one of their arguments and sort of ran with it a bit and put it out as if we had abandoned the cause of Scottish independence and were now paid up unionists. And the weird thing that happened was quite a lot of people took it seriously, even though it was published on April Fool's Day and had April Fool written somewhere in the blog post. And there were people on the yes side and on the no side that took it seriously. Quite a prominent unionist actually, but I'm not naming names. Anyway, I'm sure this will be worth a laugh. A couple of things before we get started. You may have noticed that there was an advert at the beginning of the show. This is partly because, what with the situation we're all in, it's a way just to keep the wheels turning a little bit. As soon as all this calms down, I'll probably take them off again. Anyway, I don't control which adverts come up, and just fast forward if it bothers you. As I said, this is to give you a bit of a laugh, and this week, hopefully, I'll have some more serious content out as well. The podcasts are already prepared. This one's just to get 2 laughs in before we start back on some serious stuff, and I hope you enjoy it. Speak to you at the end.
The question is, do you agree that Scotland should be an independent country?
For me, the principle that we work best when we work together.
Well, they didn't.
Very serious. The referendum. It seems to me that they're not dealing with the issues.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Scottish Independence Podcast, which I'm sorry to say that this one will be our last. It's with sadness that I have to announce that the project is over. It's a decision that's been come to not without a lot of soul searching, and I'll give you my thoughts on it later, but we also consulted our contributors about it, and some of them were firmly in agreement with their reasons for doing it. So I think because it's a decision not just with the future in mind, but also with history in mind, the first person I'll let you have a listen to is one of our contributors, Craig Gallagher, who firmly agreed with our decision to end the podcast, and here's his reason why.
Yeah, the big thing for me, I've supported independence for a long time, but I have to say thank you to the Better Together campaign, because they pointed out to me, I'd never known this. I'd studied the history of Scotland for most of my adult life, but they told me, and they were in hindsight, it was obvious, they were right, that Scotland was extinguished in 1707 by the Union. And, it makes perfect sense when you look at around us. There's the British flag. It doesn't have a saltire on there. I mean, it's got a wee white line, but let's be honest, it's a different flag. And then the name, it's a United Kingdom. It's one kingdom. I mean, it makes sense. There's only one of them, And just when I started thinking about it, I realised it's obviously true. My grocer, right? He's English, so clearly, it's not Scotland. There's an English guy there. So anyway. That's why I'm voting no. Scotland was extinguished, and there's nothing to become independent, is there?
Before I have another little word with you, I'll just go straight to another one of our contributors, who was Doug Daniel, who was in one of our earlier episodes, and I'll let you hear what he has to say on the matter.
Well, Michael, as I said when I was on last time, I've always been in favour of independence, but that was before I knew the truth. Did you know that it's not independence we'd be voting for at all? It's separation. Separation, Michael. We're going to be separate. Now, I don't actually know what that means, but it sounds scary, and I don't like scary things. I know this is true because Jackie Baillie keeps calling it that, and Jackie Baillie would never tell a lie. I'll tell you this, I did not get into this for Scotland to become separate. Nothing good can ever come from separation. I mean, just look at eggs. You can use eggs to make a nice omelette with cheese and bacon in it. But if you separate the yolk from the white, you get a meringue. Am I right? Now, I don't know if you've ever tried putting cheese and bacon into a meringue, Michael, but it's absolutely disgusting. So that's why I'm voting no in 2014.
So there you have it. That's why we have to stop. The Better Together campaign's just been so convincing that that's the way it's got to be. They've been so good that even people like environmental scientists have been convinced that. Here's Rebecca McKinley.
Hello, my name's Rebecca McKinley. I'm an environmental scientist and I will definitely be voting no in 2014. You see, an independent Scotland would be against nature. All the evidence to date suggests that the Scots, if they were left to their own devices, would waste valuable resources on welfare for the sick and the weak and the elderly, when these people should be left to the forces of natural selection. The laws of nature are quite clear. We'd be far better together with a sensible government that will make these people fight in the streets like the dogs they are. That's why I'm saying UK OK. Vote no in 2014 and we can keep the Tories in power forever.
Every time you look at it, it just gets worse. I mean, the Better Together campaign's even reached Zambia. Here's Keith Waddell speaking from there.
It was watching Reporting Scotland on the 25th of September 2012 that really clinched it for me. It was not just the Royal Jubilee or the London Olympics or the renewal of Trident or even the One Nation speech. It was not the fear of being thrown out of the EU and then forced to join the Euro that finalised my decision. Though incrementally, all these have played their part. But in replaying the political journey I've been travelling since the inauguration of the Better Together's No campaign, I had, by the end of September, reached critical mass. The evidence by then was really crystal clear. All doubts and uncertainty had finally melted, especially with that cogent and persuasive argument by our hopefully to be Dame-in-Waiting, Joanne Lamont, for the dismantling of the Scottish Universalist welfare state. Her something-for-nothing society speech and her attack on work-shy benefit scroungers, parasitic pensioners, and the so-called disabled malingerers and indolent students, that was a defining moment and a rush of reason to the latent conservative and unionist that had been lying dormant inside me. A return to the more traditional selective charity doctrine and the abolition of free education, health and transport services, this is an unanswerable case to all those peddling their universalist and separatist welfare agendas. The free provision of these services fails to take into account the inconsequentiality, the indigence and imprudence of over 80% of Scottish society. It's now clear that these provisions are an unnecessary extravagance and nothing more than electoral bribes and nationalist freebies. The No campaign, with its sound economics grounded in Westminster's Green Book, the bedroom tax, PFIs, austerity, and financial incentives for the banking sector, have all deepened my convictions and given me a fresh confidence in internalising the benefits of unionism and the dangers of separation.
So you can hear this has been a very difficult decision for everyone, and nothing that anyone has taken lightly. It even moved Andrew to poetry.
Nae mair will our bonny callants merch to war when oor braggarts cruisely craw, nor wee wains frae pit heed and clachan mourn the ships sailing down the Broomielaw. Broken families in lands we've harriet will curse Scotland the brave, nae mair, nae mair. Black and white, ane till ither marriott, mak the vile barracks o their maisters bear. what a dismal vista. Recently, the Tory Defence Minister has been in Glasgow, and he made a point which really hit home with me. His argument was simple. What would become of the warlike Scotchmen if Scotland became independent? Would these berserker spirits spill onto our street? What would these soldiers do for war? Whom would they bomb, and where, and how? What guns would they have? What aeroplanes? Would we be reduced to muskets and bayonets, with nary the technology to harry a small, medium-sized, perhaps Middle Eastern country, if our politicians decided such were a diverting pastime? Imagine the image, the dolorous picture of the berserker sodger, the sodger boy, in the recruiting sergeant's room in independent Scotland. Listen, lad, there's nae wars here, nae future for you in the Scottish Army. When I saw that the Scottish Nationalist Party had reversed its position on NATO and there may be some small conflict for an independent Scotland to get involved in, sending its troops to far-flung territories, I was slightly encouraged. But where's the guarantees that Scotland would continue to be able to send our brave boys to die and cause others to die abroad? So with a heavy heart, despite the nationalism which has been in my family for 4 generations, I've come to the view that you can vote for Scottish independence for many reasons. The SNP recently asked us to vote for Scottish independence for our children. You might vote for independence for our poorer fellow citizens, whose benefits are being ravaged by a Westminster government insensible to their plights, indifferent to their predicament. You might vote for independence for them. But not me. No, I see the face of that young soldier boy outside the recruiting sergeant's office in independent Scotland, his eyes dull, his heart beating with nary a flutter at the prospect of some small-scale peacekeeping endeavour, without decent military hardware to rain death from the skies, with hardly a silo of missiles to the country's name, with no nuclear deterrent to deter whichever foe the fierce British people need next deal with. I look into that disappointed soldier's eyes, and I say, vote no. We are better together.
An extraordinary thing is that in a campaign that doesn't seem to have so much going on at grassroots level, they've been absolutely amazing. They've even affected people on the terraces. And here's Chris Kuyava to explain that.
We're better together. I've said it. There's no use denying it, we are. You may think I'm only saying that as a fan of one of Scotland's big clubs who are always talking about leaving Scotland and playing elsewhere anyway, but it's not just the lure of the English Premier League that's important here. Independence is just wrong for Scotland. I mean, who'd run it? The SNP? Don't make me laugh. No, there's a better way. The Liberal Democrat way. Scotland as part of a federal United Kingdom just makes sense. That way Scotland can deal with all the local issues in Scotland, just as the English and the Welsh and the Northern Irish can deal with their own local issues too. Local parliaments for local issues. That's the way to go. Basically the stuff the others can't be bothered with and don't think are important anyway. Meanwhile, all the big important decisions can still be made by the proper UK government, and we can just do as we're told. Be part of a wider coalition of governments. It's the Lib Dem way, it's the future.
Their campaigning's been so effective that they've even reached people that have been campaigning down on the grassroots level every day, and someone who was a former member of the Parliament who was in a party that supported independence and has supported independence since she was a very, very young age. I'll let Carolyn Leckie explain because you have to hear it.
You might know that I've been doing a few things recently, like for Women for Independence, and Yes, East Kilbride had a launch, and I did a meeting in Edinburgh that Engender had organised, which was a debate in favour of independence with a woman for Better Together, who was very nice.